And welcome to another Biddle on February 9th, 2019. It's almost like we did this before. Seems so familiar, just with different faces. Some. So, what's going on?
Sounds good to
much.
No, another
Linuxy thing.
Yep, a lot of tumbling.
All right, let's get a confirmation from chat that the sound is good, and we'll continue on.
I checked on YouTube. It sounds all right on my end.
Dig it. All right, so earlier today we had the Biddle Europe edition, which was awesome. Had some more guys from Europe come join us, and we're able to allow them to be normal people and not be awake at 3 a.m. Sorry, Zeb.
Normal people.
Yeah.
Sorry, Zeb.
It's quite enough today.
He just nodded off. He couldn't help himself.
Yeah, right.
I'm good. I was just typing a little message. Yeah.
All right, so we had a distro challenge this week of OpenSUSE. Who would like to go first? Oh my gosh. Figures. All right, Nate, go ahead.
Well, so I installed OpenSUSE Linux actually several times, but for other people, and I just never seem to have a problem with it. I got all my notes set aside, what I have to do to configure them just right, and it always seems to work. But of course, I'm kind of biased because I'm an OpenSUSE user for the last 8 years, so full-time for 8 years, I should say. So, do you want me to say like why I like Zipper? Oh, I'm sorry, why I like OpenSUSE in general, or do you just want to defend it throughout the entire show?
You could just defend it throughout the entire show.
We'll just do that.
But I will say that in the earlier show, I talked about some of the issues I had, and that was right when you were having internet problems. So maybe you can tell me what's going on with some of the issues I have having. Well, the 4K high DPI is beside the point because that happens with a lot of distributions, which is why I only run a certain few right now. But I did have issues with OBS with high DPI where they were really tiny preview boxes. And if I pull OBS open to be larger, it gets that double screen anywhere where it was at that length or at that width. So that's an issue. But remember, Nate has a blog. What is it? Cubicle Nate? What is it?
CubicleNate.com.
Yeah. Okay. So that blog has a section on OpenSUSE, and it's excellent. It has some awesome commands for people who are not familiar with OpenSUSE. So I tried some of those, and I actually took some of your suggestions through Telegram, Nate, and I enabled some of the repositories that were there, like Mozilla and libdvd and a couple of other ones. And it works great, except for I keep getting signature errors. So every day that I'm running, I get a signature error notification. Now I've did a zipper refresh. I've did one or two things. Adam was actually working with me earlier to try to fix it, and we did it. He did, and we did everything that thought was necessary to fix it. But I still keep getting notifications in KDE saying like libdvd repository has an untrusted signature or something like that.
So when you do the if you do the zipper refresh, zipper ref, it should ask you, it should like prompt you about do you want to trust this? And there's different options. There's like trust once, trust always, or something like that. You have to make sure you say trust always, or A is the option, and that will basically take the certificate and always trust it. So
okay, so when I did that, I did trust, or T, which was B trust, which explains why it keeps coming up. But now I do a refresh, and that no longer comes up. It doesn't ask me again. That's my problem. I'm trying to get rid of the error itself, and it won't ask me again to say trust or trust all.
What I would then do is I would just remove the repository. So it'll be zipper RR, and then whichever number that is. If you do zipper ls, that'll list the repositories. So then you see the number there. Do zipper RR, select that repository, whatever that one that is, and then re-add that repository and say trust always. I have had that happen once before on me. but I don't know. I'm not sure what the reason is. I couldn't answer that.
But overall, it's actually working pretty good. I'm not streaming from it because of the OBS issue with the high DPI, but other than that, it's working good. Martin, you're back.
Welcome.
Hello.
What's going on?
I don't know. I got busy working on some stuff, and then all of a sudden it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, is that other one happening?
Hey, look at that!
And I refreshed YouTube, and there it was. So I thought, I know how to join this now.
See, there you go.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Martin.
I won't be sticking around for long, but I thought I'd just drop in and say hello again.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Zeb. I know we went through some of these during the earlier show, but I think it would be good if it was going through again so that it can be all condensed into one show. So what's your take on OpenSUSE?
No problem. Well, as I explained earlier on, I started life with OpenSUSE Leap. And like Alan Pope, I downloaded the 4.7 gig USB ISO, burnt it away and tried to boot up, and then I was getting too many error messages with various things while it was installing. So I thought, no, let's give this a miss. And I was almost on the verge of going to do my wonderful next, but I didn't. So I went for the net install, and everything worked great. And I was using it for about a week. And then Jason from Forbes started his tumbleweed challenge, and I thought, oh, I suppose I better go to tumbleweed. But Nate had already warned me that you could run into a few problems when the kernel updates, and then you got to do your NVIDIA card again. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll do this wonderful upgrade from Leap to tumbleweed. Boy, I wish I hadn't.
What could go wrong?
That was not fun. And I think Colin might have fell into that trap as well sometime during the week, where you have to press 1 about 3,500 times.
Oh, yeah, geez.
So I thought, no. Went back to the net installed tumbleweed. And apart from it has some really obscure partitioning requests, because you all know my setup here. I've got gazillion numbers of SSDs. And the OpenSUSE Leap install that I did earlier chewed up every single piece of space that I had left with /var/temp/this/the other. And I'm just going to wreck your whole SSD install and put me on ButterFS and XFS and all these weird. And I thought, whoa, no, what's going on? So when I did the tumbleweed one, it was like, no, there's your UEFI, there's your root, leave it alone. And it worked perfectly. So I'm happy to say that apart from a small learning curve with the new commands and zipper, whatever you want to call it, it's running really well. And again, really bizarrely, Rocco, my OpenSUSE, I checked here a while ago before I came on. My OBS doesn't do what you say yours does, which is really strange. So I'm not sure what's going on there with your hardware, but it doesn't.
I did it again, Zeb. I did it again. Something that only happens on my machine.
Wow.
I don't know why.
I think we better start funding for Rocco then. But apart from that, I'm actually liking OpenSUSE. Will it stay on my system? Probably not, but I wouldn't shy away from recommending it to anybody who wanted to look at something different, put it that way. Once it's up and running, it just seems to work, which is always good. So yeah, gets a thumbs up from me.
That's nice. Huge in my book, just so you know. If Zeb says it's good, that's like, wow.
Hey, there was no next.
Yeah, absolutely. Really?
There almost was.
I wrote it a couple of 3 times in Telegram, but never actually.
Yes.
Yes, but see, that was like early stages. You always you'll say next, but then you like try it again. You're pretty persistent in that area. Pretty patient. So, all right, Joe.
Well, as you know, I had it installed before we finished the after show last week.
Yes, you did.
Then I kind of played with it a little bit and just, quick glances around. And then the other day, I let it sit for a couple days. I went to pull it out, and I was going to jump on watching, I don't know if Toss was on or one of those guys. And all of a sudden, the internet wouldn't come on. I couldn't get the network going. It's like, what the heck? So I kept playing with it. Finally, it seemed like I got it going. And I thought I'll download Chrome. Maybe it's a Firefox thing. And it downloaded Chrome. I go to do the install, and then there's these. It wants, I'm used to Debian, doing a Debian install where you just click and you forget about it. Well, this thing, it's got all these different options, and it's like I was like a fish out of water, long and short of it. And I honestly, I didn't have the patience to try to learn it. I think it's very nice looking. I think it's, it seemed to work fairly snappy on the laptop. And I don't know if I'm really going to be curious this week, because if I have a network issue again, I'm going to start to wonder if there isn't something going on with the laptop. Because I said, if you remember, I was having issues with another previous one as well with the 5G wasn't showing up on there, and it wasn't on this one either. But I couldn't even get my 2.4 running on it. So I don't know what the issue was with it. But for me, I'm so used to an Ubuntu base. I was a little bit on the lazy side and didn't really want to take the time to probably learn it or try to figure it out. I like something that I could just install and go, So I'm not sure where the problems were coming in. So next.
Okay. Michael.
So I picked up a refurbished T430 ThinkPad. So I've got
Was
that
this
running.
for the Kubernetes investigation, or was this for distro hopping?
Actually, it was for both.
Okay.
So I have to swap it out there because it has a BIOS password on it, so they have to replace that. But anyway, as for OpenSUSE itself, I mean, I had messed with it a bit before on my main machine. I had NVIDIA problems there, so this one, luckily, it's just an Intel card. It doesn't need any of that. So I don't know what's going on I think it's just a specific card on the main machine that it doesn't like it. And Manjaro had the same problem, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But Ubuntu stuff works fine, so I'll just keep with that for now. But as for the install itself, like we talked about earlier, there's some odd things in the install where you have to select your Wi-Fi and all that stuff and get that set up. But I ran into a bit of a bug. A permission error or something like that. I don't know what we actually classify that. Once you got in, I tried to set up KDE Connect, and the firewall is on by default. Unlike, I think Mint and Ubuntu probably keep it off by default. So I ran into a permission problem where ultimately I could get the app and the ports added to my, to the firewall to allow them, but then it would not let me save the network zone. And then when you try to go to the network manager and save the zone there, it just doesn't save because it needs pseudo privileges, I'm pretty sure. And so we had to install a different firewall configuration UI thing to actually get to that point. So it was a really weird situation because the new firewall configuration GUI just doesn't have those options. It's quite a bit different in what it actually has and what it doesn't. So it's really strange. But once we've installed that and I could switch that, I got it all working as expected.
Nice.
Did we say something to that or no?
You can say whatever you want, man.
Well, I just want to make sure,
Not whatever, but
within reason, I have my left and right limits. I know. So the firewall issue. Speaking of, so recently, by recently I mean a few months back, OpenSUSE switched to this from their SUSE firewall to the firewall D, and so not everything seemed, at least on the Tumbleweed side, has kind of strained itself out yet. That's really what it boils down to. But if you actually run the firewall D, like the firewall config, firewall, what's the term for dash? But it's not called dash.
TAC.
TAC. There we go. Yeah. Firewall TAC config. Install that. That will then you can actually properly configure the firewall from there. Somehow the current configuration tool they have there doesn't actually have, like, it won't automatically give your interface and the zones and such. I don't know what the problem is there. I will file a bug though. And then, but anyway, so the firewall config, you set all that up. And then when you're in Network Manager, you can actually define what zone it is that you are connected to. So if it's home or work or public,
right.
Whatever.
But what I was saying is that the problem I was having is it didn't have pseudo privileges to actually save that.
Right.
That's where I was running into the problem.
So when we tested Fedora, how long ago was that? That wasn't too long ago, right?
No.
Month ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I filed a bug basically for the same thing in the LXQT desktop, and they had a similar issue with Firewall D where it was not basically asking for elevated privileges when it needed to be, and they actually patched it in Fedora. So I'm guessing, it's a similar issue in OpenSUSE.
So it's not a problem on my machine because I can change the zone with the network manager, and that all works properly. So I don't know. I'm not sure on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Peter. What's your thoughts on OpenSUSE?
I had Tumbleweed actually installed about 2 months ago on my eSATA drive that connects to my other Alienware machine. And I was liking it. I mean, it caught my interest back then. I was playing with it in the partition. I didn't do too much of it. I installed software every now and then, did updates. But I seemed to like it, and I always thought, let me be blunt. If anything ever happened to Solus, I'd be looking at OpenSUSE as a replacement. Huh? So I'm being blunt there and open. But
I'd welcome you with open arms.
I'll give you a big hug, no problem. And so I liked it. And then the challenge happened last week. I thought, okay, let me try and get a little more serious with this. Because I've been running it on the Alienware with the Nouveau driver. I thought, okay, let me install NVIDIA. That was a mess. And I totally lost track over 3 days of all the things I tried, different repositories, community repositories, even direct commands in TTY, sorry. And I just I destroyed the distro. So I had to reinstall it. So it's running back on Nouveau. Like Zeb, I used the net install. I actually had no USB drives that were over 4 gig, so I had to use net install. And I used the default desktop, which is the default window manager on that?
There isn't one.
Yes, there is. No. When you get a choice of Plasma, GNOME, or there's a default desktop which takes you to a window manager install.
Well, there's a custom desktop, or if you want like
that's a custom. Yeah, that's what I meant. Custom. Yeah. What's the custom?
So it's like ICE window manager or something like that.
Yeah, I think it is ICE. Yeah, it's very minimal. It's a window manager, and from there I installed XFE.
Less than minimal.
Yeah. So from there I installed XFE, and I really liked it. I did that twice now. But I do like OpenSUSE. I want to learn it more. One day I'll probably put it on a machine by itself and try to get the right partitions, get the right file manager running, and just have a good play with it. That's really it.
Awesome. All right, so Barbara is not feeling up to par tonight, so she's not going to make it, but she did pass along her thoughts on Telegram. So she tried OpenSUSE Tumbleweed on her ThinkPad T420. She's not a big KDE fan, we all know that, but she did try the KDE version because, Nate, you had mentioned the fact that there were maybe issues with the GNOME version right at the moment. So during the installation, she had this go ahead.
Oh, no, there was nothing I was saying. Yeah, that's correct.
Yep. All right, so during the installation, she had issues connecting to her Wi-Fi. So she did the Ethernet cable, which was obviously made it around it. She actually, everybody knows she runs Gecko Linux, so she's kind of comparing it to that. And needless to say, she likes Gecko Linux a little bit better. But she then, the KDE, she said, didn't have a dark theme. Now, I know KDE does have a dark theme, so she must have just missed it. But she then tried to install the Mate desktop, and in her words, that was a total disaster. So the keyboard response was laggy, and it didn't feel stable enough. But that's also because she's used to Ubuntu Mate being stable. So There you go. That's her 2 cents.
Ooh.
All right,
I
Dan,
haven't
you are
installed-
up.
Oh,
Go ahead, Nate.
Oh, yeah, I haven't installed Mate on OpenSUSE since I first tried Ubuntu Mate. So that was 1604, I think, about that time. So I don't know. I couldn't say for now.
Well, you should probably try it. The developer works pretty hard on it.
Yeah.
Which
Developers.
Between whenever we last spoke and now, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, Wimpy is a good mate.
All right.
Very good.
All right, Dan. Well, if he showed up to 2 biddles in one day, you know he is. So
Yeah, right.
Dan, you're up, brother.
Okay. Yeah, I did the KDD Plasma version, obviously. That's the recommended one, so I did that. Install was, smooth as butter. Oh, wait. Yeah.
Wow, dude, that was terrible.
Oh, it was terrible. No, I don't know. It was fine. It was kind of actually, no, seriously, I did the net install and it was maybe a little longer because I did that. But the install went fine.
No, it wasn't longer. It was the same length for me, and I didn't do the net install.
Okay. Yeah. So it went a long time then.
It was a long time.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's a long install.
Yeah. It wasn't like, Calamari's or Ubiquity or one of those for sure. So,
No.
but I mean, it all got in its place where it needed to go and seemed to work okay. I didn't have a lot of time to play with it. We're doing some other stuff here. So,
You mean real life?
yeah, some of that. And, there's going to be an April release of some stuff
Right?
that's coming. So I've been busy working on some of those tasks. But it went okay. I mean, it wasn't bad. A little weird. So we talked about the firewall, and that was a little weird for me. There was some complication there, I think, that probably didn't need to be there. You could probably simplify some of that and maybe just get just as much. It tries to get fancy with, the different zones of, it's almost emulating, I guess, Windows in that sense.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're at home or your work, you want to pick a different profile, I guess, for your network. And that's fine, I guess, but it probably adds a layer of complexity that you might not necessarily need. I don't know, just thinking. But it's cool. Other than that, I didn't really have any issues. It went fine.
Nice. Colin?
Well, I tried the net install, couldn't get the wireless going, so then I had to download the 4 gig one, but that downloaded pretty quickly. But when I installed it, I think I installed 4 times this week, 3 times on the laptop, but it gave me, I thought that the wireless was connected. I'm pretty sure it said active, and when I installed, I was having all sorts of issues with codecs and all that, but I tried a few times, blew it up 2 or 3 times, I think. So then I went to I went to my desktop and tried that, and the wireless worked on there. So maybe it wasn't compatible with the wireless in that laptop. I'm not sure, because I got completely different results on the desktop computer, whereas everything started happening. I just found, so installed okay, not a problem. I just found searching for repos and stuff was a bit confusing, because there's a lot to do with OpenSUSE, and then you got Tumbleweed, and then it says you've got to add these repos, and then there's this allow vendor change and all that sort of stuff. But once you get through that, it's not too bad. But then it came to Zoom. I downloaded the RPM, and then you have to download the key from the Zoom site as well, which Zeb told me. Otherwise, I would have had no idea. Then I had to figure out how to get that installed. There was a command for that as well, to actually install the key, and then you can install the RPM just by double clicking. So after all that, I got to play with it since yesterday, and well, pretty much today. I've got it up and running for this show. So I'm running Tumbleweed now. I just feel as though you need to be constantly looking at the internet and searching what the issues are with this. I've got the GNOME version running here. So I don't know what the issues are with that, but as soon as I did the KDE and that wallet thing came up, that was it for me. Done deal. I despise that K wallet thing that keeps popping up. It's annoying. But the GNOME one seems to be running okay, so I don't know what the issues are. But it just seems as though you need to keep on top of the repos or what's going on with Tumbleweed, and it's like you're babysitting it all the time. So that's what it seems to be to me. So, but it's running now. It's running okay. It feels heavy. Feels heavier than normal than other Ubuntu-based distros to me when it's running. So, but so far so good.
Well,
so
the K wallet thing is not, obviously not specific to OpenSUSE. That's just the KDE thing.
No, that's right. No,
I don't think anybody likes K wallet.
I like
Nobody.
K wallet.
No, you don't. Stop it. You're lying.
Yeah, stop it, mate. You don't.
So
say you don't.
So give me one good thing that you love about K wallet, and I will be impressed, Nate.
So I set it up for the most simple way possible. So I use the Bluefish or Blowfish, whatever encryption, which it says not to use, and then I don't actually use a password for it, which it also doesn't recommend. And so it just happens, and I don't even think about it. Just kind of just does its thing, stores my passwords. Yeah. So then it's not a problem.
So you're just circumventing it. You're not liking it.
No, it does what it does what it needs to do.
Yeah.
So like this has happened before when I've believe it or not, I've forgotten a password before, and I've probably used one of those password manager things one of these days. I forget which one that Michael recommended.
Bitwarden.
Bitwarden. That's it. So one of these days, I'm going to spend the time and actually play with that. But until then, I've been using K Wallet, and what it does. So I have my passwords in there, and if I forget my password, I can actually go in there and find my password after I click a bunch of things. So Nate, handy for
Nate. Bear with me here.
Here comes the K wallet discussion.
This is going to be great, guys. We're out of popcorn.
Leave it for Nate to find a positive thing.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say.
My next question is, Nate, tell me your favorite thing about Discover. Go.
The fact that the icons were like about this big on my laptop.
It's funny because exactly what Nate does with K Wallet, I do with that Chrome thing that comes up every now and again when it says, like, do you want it to be the best in the world and do you want me to overtake the world? And I go, no, empty, carry on. And it does the same thing. It just works in the background and I'll never have to remember the password again. So
yeah, good old GNOME keyring. When you tell Chrome to ignore that thing, it just saves all your stuff as a plain text in a plain text file. So
that's great.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
By the way, switched back to Firefox this week. Kind of loving it. It'd been a long time. I don't know if it does the same thing.
Totally agree. Totally agree. But before we go on, Nate,
Discover.
you must answer the Discover question because I'm waiting.
Oh, okay. Okay. It respects my dark theme very nicely.
Oh my God. There it is.
That's pretty positive.
Also, actually,
it doesn't work for nothing, but it does respect the dark theme.
It really doesn't work.
I tried it. Well, it'll work in Leap, but not in Tumbleweed. So I looked at some. I turned it on actually to see if it did work for flat. Oh, it'll work for Flatpaks in Tumbleweed. So to look at Flatpaks that were available, and so I was looking through, and I saw there was some software I never knew before. So I discovered new software.
Wow.
Nice discovery.
Well, let me ask you a question, Nate. This is all about giving OpenSUSE some feedback. So is there any discussion that you've heard that they might, to me, it would make sense to not have Discover even installed on a Tumbleweed install if you're not going to use it anyway.
So good, bad, or otherwise, when OpenSUSE pulls down a project like Plasma or GNOME or Mate, they actually leave it pretty vanilla. They don't do much changing to it besides like some theming. So they leave it pretty close to what upstream is. So any patches that are done on OpenSUSE, they actually push them directly up quickly because they don't have a lot of changes done to it. So the reason that they are actually going to do some customization to Discover because there has been so much
feedback.
Feedback. There we go. I was going to say love for it. That they're going to make it so it will actually work in Tumbleweed. So things like what'll happen is like package kit. It's a systemd daemon that runs in the background. It'll actually kind of take over and kind of lock down the RPM system. I don't know if anyone's experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, because I opened Discover, and it was decided to search for updates, and it was just sitting there searching for updates. And so then I tried to open either the terminal or Yast, and it said it couldn't do this because there was another thing running. Yeah. So I tried to close Discover, and I got the dreaded "you can't close this because it's performing a task."
Hey, Rocco, if I interject, did anybody else have 1,875 updates sitting there waiting for it too?
I had
like over 2,000.
I did the net install, so I didn't.
I had 3,000 updates actually.
Wow.
And yeah, so that actually I just pulled that down yesterday or the day before. But yeah, no, they just pulled another snapshot, which was a lot of almost everything has been rebuilt because there's like between new kernel, there's a bunch of new things. I don't know what it all was. So they had to rebuild a lot of the packages recently. So actually this is like for a Tumbleweed challenge. Someone, I think Richard Brown or somebody in the Discord channel, he said, well, this is not the best time for this kind of feedback.
Yeah, it was Richard Brown. That they had so many changes that had come through and so many different. Yeah.
So he said, this is not the best time, but oh well.
Well, like I said, this is not a, blast on OpenSUSE session. This is to give OpenSUSE feedback from normal everyday users. All right, Chris, you are up, sir. I know you tried it.
Yes, well, with the discussions on Telegram, I wouldn't doubt. But I've used OpenSUSE before, but it's always been Leap. I haven't done the Tumbleweed. Really didn't find a whole lot of difference between the two. And if I didn't always settle on Fedora as my daily driver, I'd probably be using OpenSUSE. The things that I really liked was the familiarity I had with the zipper because it worked almost exactly like DNF. Reading further into it, zipper seems to have a few more commands available for just general maintenance, which actually is quite appreciative. I did have once I installed it, I ran the update and had like 2,087 updates to run. I'm running it on a single core on real hardware here, a single core 2 gig drive. I think it's 1.8 gigahertz and a 40 gig hard drive, spinning hard drive, and it seems to live fine and happy with it. Haven't really had a trouble. The one thing I did do is I tried updating the core or updating the kernel, and I found I had to keep going out to pulling down stuff like ncurses and BC, and there's a whole lot of other packages that I thought would already be on the system that were not on the system. And that was after running the latest Tumbleweed update as well. And so I thought that rather weird, and then it came up with a weird error that I didn't finish researching before we had the chat tonight. So other than that, I have not had any issue with it. It solved both my wireless card and my wired, no problem. I can run DHCP client on that without a problem. The only thing is that I thought Firefox was HTML5 compatible, but when I tried running a YouTube video on it, came up, said it's not, and I was like, well, I didn't install Flash because I thought we didn't have to install Flash on for YouTube anymore. So I put Chrome on there and it works fine. That's about all I have right at the moment.
So Flash is a separate repository you got to enable, Nate.
Yeah. I know about Flash. It's just that I thought we didn't have to do that anymore. But
you don't. You just need the additional codecs.
Yeah, the Pac-Man repo, and then didn't do it from there.
Okay, I didn't install VLC or anything like that. So yeah, okay.
All right, Thomas, I believe it is your turn.
All right. So I tried out Tumbleweed in a VM as usual. And so when I went to install it, I shot a message to Nate on the Telegram group asking what the DE is when you hit the custom button. And I believe, Nate, didn't you tell me that it was XFCE?
It's one of the options, yes. XFCE, you have Mate, and you have LXQT, and you also have, was it?
Okay.
I forget what it's called. It's some sort of Enlightenment.
Okay. Well, I did not see that menu. So after the installation, I just had Ice Window Manager. And
which is fine.
It works.
It sounds like a issue.
Yeah.
In the keyboard and chair, dude. Just saying.
Well, it very well might be. Okay. But it was the ugliest thing ever. So I had to figure out how to install XFCE myself. And that was an adventure in Google.
You should have just asked me directly.
I figured it out eventually. It didn't take me too long. It's all right, though. Thank you. Once I did figure it out, it wasn't too bad. I always felt like Zipper and the one package manager thing that's in there by default, I can't even remember what it's called now.
RPM?
Yast?
Yast. That's it. Yast.
Yes, it's a system tool. It's not a package manager.
Okay. I thought
it just helps manage packages.
Okay. Well, I was using it something like Synaptic. So, so sue me.
No, that's right. Good.
But I was using that after digging around and figuring out how to install XFCE. I got it in there. The one big issue I had was that XF panel switch is not in the repos. And that's something that if you use XFCE, you really want to have in case something happens and you need to back up your configuration. So I went and I found the latest build for Fedora. And me being a complete noob to OpenSUSE figured, okay, it's an RPM. It should probably run. I throw it in there, and the first time I try to install it, it throws an error. I'm like, okay, I'm used to seeing this. I try to get and override it, and it actually installs. The GUI decides not to like me, but I was able to actually do what I was wanting to do from the command line, so it does work. But that would be something that I would highly suggest getting into the repos by default, because that is a thing that you definitely need if you're going to run XFCE.
Did you go to software.opensuse.org and do a search for it there?
Yeah, it didn't show up.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, so it may be under a different name. Well, I don't like Plasma or KDE. Yeah,
I just don't know that one.
It's great for backing up your default config or what you want your default config to be. But overall, that wasn't a huge issue. I got it to work at least. The only real issue I had with it was I felt like Zipper was a little bit slow, and that could have just been the internet connection at the time. But it did feel slow compared to apt. So, I would not recommend it by default, but if there was something that I found that it did exceptionally well, then I would happily recommend it because it is definitely a usable system. And if I had to use it, I would have no gripes. It's just, I feel like using an Ubuntu-based distro is a little bit better for me personally. So,
that's fair.
All right. Moving on, we got 20 minutes left for OpenSUSE. No, just kidding. Scott, what's going on?
I actually got a little confused along during the week as to what I was doing, and I ended up downloading the Leap version. So all I have is the review on that. It went fine for me. I didn't have any issues installing. I liked all the options that were available in the install. I installed the KDE Plasma version, and it's running well. Now I have to qualify the fact that it's running in a virtual machine. I used Oracle's VirtualBox, and it's running right now. The only issue that it has communicating through the box is grabbing the drivers. So it's using its own set of drivers for the VirtualBox instead of my installed GPU, which is fine. I mean, it would probably not be an issue if I installed it on the hard machine itself. I had actually no issues with it other than the couple of normal things that you normally run into in a container of VirtualBox. Nothing complicated, nothing impossible to overcome, and it's running right now quite well. I just popped a screenshot of it in chat, so you can take a look at it. It's I like it. It's nice and it runs smooth.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, we're gonna skip Nate because Dave.
SUSE is like a 20-year-old sweatshirt for me. I've been using it that long. It's comfortable. So to challenge myself, I actually went with GNOME, since I don't do GNOME. But it's actually been good. I did the net install. It installed fine. The NVIDIA drivers came right in. I didn't have any issues this time because I had figured out last time where to actually save the config file. The only tweaks that weren't of my own making, Redshift, which might have actually been of my own making, kept heating up and cooling off back and forth when it tried to change the desktop. And the package kit lock that people have been talked about. Other than that, I haven't run across any of the GNOME issues. It's a little strange for me that I can't just sudo NVIDIA settings or Thunar. I actually have to go into SUSE and drop into a root terminal, and from there start NVIDIA settings or Thunar to be able to run it as root.
Really?
Yep. But that, it's just the difference. Most of it, I think for me, the biggest thing is I'm spoiled as an Arch user with the AUR that I just one place to go, and it's got everything. But there's been nothing that I haven't been able to find instructions for. Most of it is in the software, OpenSUSE.org, and that which isn't is usually in the wiki. Will guide you to where you need to go to find it.
The wiki's awesome.
So it's what's on my system now. It's been rock solid for me. I enjoy it, but it's like a 20-year-old sweatshirt. It's just really comfortable and not, flashy or anything. But
that makes it sound like it's ratty.
No, it's not.
But that you haven't watched it much.
Yeah, but
it's solid and comfortable, and I don't have any of the problems even in Tumbleweed with the updates and everything. It hasn't given me any snarking, no issues. It's just running really well.
You intrigued me now. I might want to try the GNOME version because some of the issues that I've been talking about, like OBS, have been specific to KDE. So,
OBS ran fine. I installed that, set it up. It even took the 4K resolution and, swapped it back and forth between the monitors, that and the camera, and everything worked great. It's for me, a lot of it's just getting used to the GNOME workflow and getting back into thinking, on the command line of the zipper commands instead of the Pac-Man commands. That's, it's just shifting muscle memory for me.
All right. Frank, you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Welcome to Biddle, dude.
Thank you. Thanks for all having me.
Welcome.
I have a weird thing with SUSE. I used it a long time ago when Novell owned it, and I haven't used it for a very long time. So I grabbed the net install and went into ICE, and it is very, very plain. Wanted to put XFCE on there, and Zipper is kind of a weird thing. I will say that the OpenSUSE wiki is awesome, but it was a weird command to install XFCE. It's something like, gosh, let me see if I can even remember. It's something like zipper in -t pattern XFCE.
Yeah, pattern. That's right. I remember it.
And that's just really, really strange. But I think Alan on the made a mention that they have zipper. You can just use apt and it will translate everything. And that made life really easy. I put Cinnamon on there, and it actually works very well. I think it's one revision ahead of what Ubuntu has on. I think Ubuntu is running 3.8.8 out of their main repositories, and I think it's 3.8.9 in OpenSUSE, and I think Mint has 4 something. And Cinnamon looks beautiful. I put a screenshot in the Telegram group. There are a couple issues.
I'm surprised that Cinnamon isn't the 4.0 in OpenSUSE, because usually you get the latest packages with them.
That's what I was expecting. Now, there's some negative. I want to say positive. The documentation in the OpenSUSE wiki and their forums is awesome. Very good.
That's good to hear.
I had an issue when I installed and wanted to do updates. It did something like 2,500 updates, and did the sudo command, and it would not. It gave me a permissions issue, so I had to drop down into a root shell to update it. Don't know why. Worked fine afterwards. I mean, everything works. Firefox, I don't have the Firefox issue with YouTube or anything. Everything works fine. Videos work. It actually, I mean, it works. I've heard some complaints that it's a little slow. I didn't put GNOME or KDE on, obviously, but everything works, and it's got nice documentation. I don't think I'd use it as a daily driver for a new user. If someone had a little bit of experience, I would say that it's something you could definitely look at.
Did anybody notice that this was a 4.12 kernel? Or is that just specific to Leap?
That's specific to Leap.
Probably. Yeah, because when I installed it, I had 420.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Frank, I agree that I wouldn't quite give it to a new user, because there are issues that you have to work out, and there are things that questions you have to answer sometimes that probably new users not going to know about. But I don't think that's their user base or their target audience that they're going for either. So.
Yeah, Frank mentioned the Cinnamon version's a little behind. So is the LXQT version that's in the repo. That's a little behind too.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know.
I mean, the KDE version is up to date.
Yep.
XFCE is current.
Are you talking about Leap or Thunder? Or
well, XFCE is current with everything because they never change.
It should be.
They're always current.
Well, Leap is always old too.
No, we're talking about Tumbleweed though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it can't be that current if it hasn't got the XFC panel switch.
This is
that's
true.
right.
Components.
Although it did still work with it. It just didn't have it in the repos.
Zeb, that could be user error too.
Oh, yeah.
XFC panel switch was not in the repos. I promise.
Just teasing you.
I dug and I could not find it.
All right, Tyler, you're up.
All right, so it was a fun week. I used OpenSUSE from about 2013 until towards the end of 2017 before going Solus and then going Kubuntu with the new build back last August. So going back to Tumbleweed, it was a fun experience. Installer was familiar. I went with EXT and not ButterFS, so I went with something familiar. I actually threw it on my Threadripper machine, just created a spare partition and threw it on there. Install went through just fine. No graphics drivers problems. Love Team Red.
Wow.
I went with the Plasma Edition. Latte Dock, I didn't like the version that was in the repos, so I pulled the version of Latte Dock from Git and just compiled it myself. And one thing I actually found very easy in YAS, when I went to the package manager, I was able to go to the KDE dev section and just install all the packages I needed, and I was good to go.
Nice.
+1 for YAST.
Yep, +1 from YAST right there. And I actually missed a lot of the YAST utilities that I used to love when I was running OpenSUSE.
It probably looks the same too, doesn't it? When you ran OpenSUSE.
Pretty much. I did have an issue with Mumble. Anytime I opened Mumble, Speech Dispatcher would distort all my audio. So I actually had to go into a config file and change one line from Pulse to libao or something like that just to get Mumble to act proper. And then after installing those 2,000 plus updates, and this actually bothered me, it reverted the config file, so I had to go in and do that again. And I think that was the same with the Pulse config file. I had to go back in and redisable Cork. So I did have an issue with it reverting config files on me after I had changed them, and it just updated and reverted all my changes.
Well, that may not be specific to OpenSUSE, because I had changed specifically I guess it's SDDM, the display manager, or the login manager for KDE, and I added some config things to that, and then when KDE updated on Arch, it reverted all my changes back.
Okay, so something I've run into since I've been on KDE Neon and Kubuntu is dpackage will actually ask me, hey, this config file has changed. Do you just want to keep what you have there? And I keep what I have there. So I'm guessing Arch and Zipper doesn't have this nice feature that says, hey, let's keep your config file here.
I don't know.
But yeah,
that's something that Mandrake was really good about, just saying.
So that was one of the just couple minor issues I've run into. Otherwise, I mean, everything else I ran into, everything else I used, it worked just fine. Some people mentioned performance issues. It felt like it was faster on my machine. That probably had to do with the newer Mesa and kernel stack than what I have on Kubuntu right now. I was missing the global menu support that I get out of Firefox and Thunderbird in any Ubuntu-based distribution because Ubuntu still patches those packages for it.
I did notice that Firefox didn't have the global menu, but the other things like Dolphin did.
Yes.
Yep.
But I was able to get... I did have a couple minor issues trying to get global menus working and everything else, but I eventually got there. Would I switch back to it? Probably not. I am quite happy on Kubuntu right now, and this seeing how the newer kernel and Mesa perform, it has me excited for Kubuntu 1904.
All right, Big Pod.
Okay, I didn't have that much problem with after it was installed, but with installation, I have like a whole list of problems. First of all, what I first saw was I didn't install it like 3 times because I had problems. I installed an OpenSUSE and I found out that automatic login is pre-checked, which is in my opinion security issue, and it should never be pre-checked anywhere because it's just a security issue. When the whole installation is long with a whole lot of sub menus and sub screens, like for example, when you're trying to change partitions, you go through 5 different screens just to change from Btrfs to ext4. And as I said, while I had these problems, I know that YAST distillation utility OpenSUSE is really powerful when it comes to enterprise and allows really nice automatic setups. But otherwise, only problem I really had on the install when it was installed, when I tried to update, it was 600 packages installed, and it removed 7 of them, including LibreOffice, EST, and Firefox. So
sometimes when it does an update, it says it removes it, but also puts a new one in its place. It depends on whatever the packaging rules were for that particular software, that particular application. But I doubt that actually removed EST.
I actually didn't have anything on, like, didn't work.
Oh.
That's why I had to reinstall it like second time, and second time it was okay.
I guess how did you update it? Did you do zipper dup or zipper update?
Zipper update. It was
no,
on
that'll
Leap.
break. That'll break. Oh, on Leap.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know that. I've not seen that issue before. I'd have to see what actually happened. Like if you have the log reports, I could probably look at them and see.
I just didn't bother. And otherwise, it worked. I installed my go-to window manager, OpenBox, which installed perfectly. So otherwise, no issues. But for myself, I wouldn't go to OpenSUSE. I too much like Manjaro, and that's it.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. Ivan.
Hello.
What's going on?
So, everything working. That's
good.
I tried it on VirtualBox. I was looking into the updates that it brought me the first time. It was around 131, so I didn't have that many. One thing I didn't like though was that I do understand that it's focused on network administration. So, of course, it had to be a very generous ISO image. It was a really, really, really big. I didn't quite like the fact
4.7 gigabytes to be exact.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't like that much. However, I did find fairly interesting tools within the distribution. I loved that. And I kind of started to play around with most of them, and I really liked it. So for that part, I enjoyed the whole experience with it. I had a little, it felt really slow in comparison with, of course, even Ubuntu. I mean, I'm on Arch, and I tend to say that Ubuntu is slow, but I would say this was slower than Ubuntu. That was like the only thing I would say in that regard. But there were 2 other things that caught my attention. The first is Spectacle. Don't know why, but it crashed the whole thing. Like I had to reboot the virtual machine when I try to use it. I don't know if anybody else had trouble with it, but that was just.
I did have trouble with Spectacle, but it's usually, and it's not just specific to OpenSUSE, it's with other KDE versions where if you go to take a screenshot using I think it's the window under mouse cursor option, I lose all title bars. Everything is, there's no way to close nothing. It's just, you have to log in and log out.
Oh, okay.
Do it now.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Just my machine, Zeb.
Oh, just your machine. Oh, okay then. Yeah.
You know, the only time I ever had any issues with Spectacle was on machines with NVIDIA on it.
Yeah.
Any other machine that I have, I've never had an issue. So it could be an NVIDIA issue.
Actually, Alan confirmed earlier in the earlier episode that he had similar issues with Spectacle, so it's not just me.
Okay.
It's just you and Alan.
Right.
So last thing I want to say about it is, no, I was really happy about it, about trying it. And well, I of course will not be switching to it. That's not the type of distribution that I would use. Fairly happy with Manjaro. But overall, I liked it very much, and it was really nice to try it out.
Awesome. Dolphin in the house.
Hi, guys.
What's going on?
Hello.
Oh, been all right. Been busy.
Yeah.
Didn't touch SUSE, OpenSUSE.
What you been busy with, man?
We just kicked out the 18.1 roll-up release today, actually about an hour before your show.
Sweet.
So we've been doing that, fixing, Michael's bugs over there and a few other things. So.
Wow.
Oh, it
Michael,
was
you call some bugs
when he says Michael's bugs, he's talking about I did this thing called report a bug.
That is correct.
Mm.
Michael gets a gold star for reporting the bug, and it was a very, very fringe kind of bug.
It was a weird bug for sure. That's what I usually find.
We fixed it anyway.
Really weird thing.
But yeah, been doing stuff. Now, as far as OpenSUSE goes, I got a question about YAST. Does YAST still have both the desktop environment GUI front end, and does it still have the console front end too?
Yes, it does.
It sure does. See, that kind of stuff's pretty cool.
I was confused because I launched YAST from the terminal thinking I was going to get the GUI, and I got the CLI.
Yeah, see.
So there you go.
Yeah, some of that stuff's
YAST
pretty
or YAST 2. I mean, there's a YAST 2 out there also.
Well, it's YAST. It's all YAST too. YAST is bye. It's
yeah.
But
I mean, that's pretty handy when you're doing stuff like setting up a headless server and stuff to have that. The command prompt's great, but it's nice to be able to have that setup area to hit. We rolled up the baby version on the Annex Control Center has a console environment too. It's nothing like YAST. YAST is enormous, but that's those are handy when you're setting up those music servers in the background that you just don't have a monitor hooked up to.
Nice.
I'm glad I didn't find that terminal-based YAST because that would have been next. God,
I was so confused, Sam.
But yes, it's so cool because the terminal based also makes it work with the automation tools that they have.
That's almost as bad as Browsh, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
How Browsh is the best.
What's wrong with Browsh?
Wow.
Exactly.
Terminal, that's what's wrong with it.
Yeah, links too, baby. That's
Terminal for life.
I think Browsh is amazing.
All right, we're gonna skip prophetic because he's an empty chair right now. Steve.
Oh, prophetic.
He was rocking the hood,
I
though.
didn't do anything.
That's all right. What's going on with you this week, brother?
Just doing some painting around the house and saying hello to everybody.
Yeah. All right. Dig it. The man that never lacks words, Michael.
Next.
Actually, go ahead. Next.
Yay, Derek got his
Derek.
video working.
Hey, what's up?
You got that camera working, dude?
No, I didn't. I switched to a different camera.
Wow.
Luckily, I've got two cameras. After I logged in the fourth time and it failed, I was like, you know what? Let me plug in a different camera.
So you got a bum camera, dude.
No, there's nothing wrong with the camera. It just doesn't like Zoom. Actually, it doesn't like me joining somebody else's Zoom. It's fine on mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, it happens.
Just
And
Rocco's room.
I know.
Are you going to file a bug report on that?
Yeah.
File to Rocco.
I would file a bug report, but it's proprietary software, so why bother?
Wow. Harsh.
It's the truth, though.
But true.
It is true. But it is the best software for this use case anyway. So.
That's true.
And that's the sad part about it. It's the best we've got.
Yep. What you been up to, Derek?
Well, I did not try OpenSUSE the Tumbleweed, at least not for your challenge here. I've tried it in the past. It's a fine distro. for rolling release distros, though. I love Arch, Rocco. This week I haven't really done anything. I quit distro hopping.
No, you didn't. Stop
What?
I can't do it anymore. No, I'm serious. It got to the point where it was affecting quality of life. Right?
He ran out of hair to pull.
Yeah, exactly. like blood pressure was always high. I went to the doctor. The doctor said I was a reg. He's like, "What's been going on?" And I told him about the distro hopping,
and he immediately gave you the answer.
So
More coffee.
You've had
more
distro
coffee.
fever?
No, I quit cold turkey. So just no more.
Are you going to do it in a VM though?
Yeah, I still have my VMs. So
It's like methadone for distro hoppers.
right, then crack to a crack
Gateway drug.
All right, Prophetic's back in the house, so he's not an empty chair. So did you try OpenSUSE, dude?
Hold on, let me just get a sip of my drink real quick.
Wow, I bet that tastes really good.
Oh.
You need one this size, Rocco. Get a lid on something this size.
That's for the advanced Biddle user. So
that's for the people who use YEST and CLI.
Yeah, on purpose.
You just got to hook up Mountain Dew intravenously for those folks. That's how it goes.
So I didn't do the challenge. I'm kind of glad I didn't, hearing some of the stories. But it was super educational to kind of hear Nate's, I guess, responses to the criticisms and the pros of using it, because I'm looking at their homepage. And I think it's a great way to describe it, the maker's choice for sysadmins, developers, and desktop users. I guess that last one might be the questionable one, maybe. But rolling done right, I think is a really cool way for me to think about it, because I never knew how to really think about OpenSUSE. So the challenge overall was like cool to hear from everyone else's experience, especially the UK Europe version was pretty cool to hear from them too.
Yep.
So I felt like I learned through all you guys testing it out and giving it a go.
A Prophetic, that would be quite a leap for you to get to. From
Oh my god.
The puns.
Not
All
even.
right, so
not even
again,
I couldn't resist.
I'm not even touching that. I'm rolling right along.
Yeah.
He
Like
just
a tumbleweed?
Really?
Do I need to get the baton, boys?
Okay, so again, this was hopefully some helpful information to OpenSUSE, and yeah, that's what we have for the challenge this week.
Well, I have a question, Rocco, actually.
Go ahead.
Somebody was mentioning before, did you say installing software not through YAST, or you can?
You can install software through YAST, yeah.
Okay, well, what's the other way of doing it?
Through Zipper. Through the
command line.
Zipper.
Okay.
Sudo zipper.
I just
name.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just thought I'd clarify that, because somebody said you don't really do that.
Sacrificing your firstborn too.
Just build it from source.
Well, I want to mention that a lot of this has to do with Jason Evangelo's challenge for OpenSUSE. So we're trying to, kind of go together as a community. So it was good seeing the elementary challenge develop. Now the OpenSUSE Tumbleweed challenge. We'll have to wait another month for whatever the next challenge is, but I think it was great to see the community come together and give feedback on a whole. And I think if we continue this, it can only make Linux as a whole better. So
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes.
I heard the next challenge is going to be something about Puppy Linux from Jason.
Is that what you heard?
It's a rumor, but I think we should
probably tweet about that, dude.
Yeah.
He's big on Twitter. He's big on Twitter. One question I do have, maybe for you Arch guys, Dave, Derek, and whoever else loves Arch. What would be your main difference between OpenSUSE and Arch, both of them being rolling distros, and pros and cons to that?
Well, I know some people might disagree, but I'm going to say stability. The fact that Arch, everybody on Arch is on the rolling version of Arch because that's all there is. It makes a difference where OpenSUSE, of course, has leap and tumbleweed. Debian has, stable, unstable testing. On distros like Arch and distros like Gentoo, everybody's on the rolling release. So when something breaks, it's very quick to get fixed. And I've had less issues with Arch than things like Debian SID, for example.
Dave, what do you think?
The real difference is in Arch, everything's in the AUR, so you don't have far to go hunting to find anything you need. Sometimes in OpenSUSE, you got to go hunting a little bit because not everything is in the software.opensuse.org. But I have to admit that Zypper has a lot more options and functionalities built in than Pacman does. Because with Zypper, you go sudo zypper si and you're building from source, which Pacman doesn't, I don't believe, automatically, have a command to do. So it's kind of a toss-up for me. I view them very similarly. I've always heard that Arch is less stable, but I've never had stability issues on either one.
So, picking between the two, Arch or OpenSUSE?
Arch is built into my muscle memory.
Just based on software availability, it has to be Arch.
Yeah.
There's nothing though that I went hunting for that I couldn't find for OpenSUSE. It wasn't all in one place, but there was nothing that I couldn't find and get in.
I think that's the critical factor, though. The centralization of the AUR. It's really helpful.
Except the AUR is also specifically pointing out that the AUR has been known by the Arch developers to avoid. So the fact that everyone promotes it as one of the best reasons to use it, they would disagree with the Arch developers themselves.
Wow.
This is true.
Well, they're worried about the safety of anybody being able to put stuff in. I don't.
Well, yeah, because they don't test anything. That's
exactly.
It's the Wild West. AUR is the Wild West, right? It's
right.
The app comes out, someone packages the thing up, they throws it up there. Now, am I correct in saying you can have multiple versions of the same app in the AUR at the same time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I believe I had seen that in the past. Even the same version, you'll have multiple packages of the same version.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it bases it on the name of the person who did it.
Mm.
Which is why you always read the build script before you install it.
If you understand it.
Yeah, that would be key if you understand it.
If you don't, you really shouldn't be using it, to be honest.
So we got the AUR.
That's pretty wow, that's another conversation, Zeb.
Yeah.
That's switch here, boys.
But if we're going to talk about the AUR, let's talk about the thing that OpenSUSE brings to the table, and that's the OBS Studio. I'm sorry, I got the wrong name. The OBS, the Open Build System.
Yeah.
That thing is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Want to build a deb package? No problem. OpenSUSE can do that. Want to build a RPM? No problem. OpenSUSE can do that.
You can even use you can build Arch tar XE files too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We've built MX kernels in the OBS. They're giving the servers away, man. Just put them in there and let them build away. It's remarkable. So you talk about the AUR and you say, okay, here, we're going to let you this. And by the way, if you want to make it for OpenSUSE, hey, great. If you want to make it for Debian, even better. If you want to make it for whoever it is you want to make it for, we can probably do it. All you got to learn is how to do it. Oh, and by the way, we'll go ahead and give you a Debian repository or whatever other kind of repository you need so you can hand the thing out later. Yeah. It's like PPAs on steroids. It's fantastic if you know how to operate the thing.
Agreed.
Hey, software-wise, there's one other thing that I saw. So Snapcraft has pretty detailed instructions for activating snaps on OpenSUSE. And everything works. You just copy and paste their instructions. And then the snap store is open to you. So that's another, it's very simple to do it. Obviously not out of the box, but there's another easy way to get software I know that Dolphin did a lot of work getting snaps working in MX, and he did great. And so that's just another source of it.
All right, so that concludes the OpenSUSE part.
Just one question, general question here. Fedora has always been called bleeding edge. How does that differ than, let's say, like a tumbleweed or a rolling?
Fedora is not technically bleeding edge. That's more of a rolling distro like Arch. The kind of the general term of Fedora is cutting edge. So it rolls faster than other distributions, but much slower than actual rolling distros.
And it cuts you.
What does that mean exactly?
That means when you
in real terms,
bleeding,
like
it also cuts you. It means that they have rawhide. So you have a testing of a repo that's constantly being updated, but they have a stable version that they hold back. Whereas the Arch doesn't really hold anything back. As soon as they can put it out, they do put it out. Whereas Fedora waits for rawhide to get finished before they do like a full push to the next version of Fedora.
Fedora is the Manjaro of that ecosystem.
No, that's what I was looking for.
No,
Dave.
it's
Thank
different
you.
because Fedora actually builds their packages.
Touche. So where does OpenSUSE fall in that category?
Well, OpenSUSE is in the full rolling bleeding edge on the Tumbleweed and Debian style on the Leap.
Yeah, Leap.
I still don't understand why they would be behind in Cinnamon.
Well,
it has to do with whether or not it came down. I mean, so somebody who's maintaining that, they probably haven't been able to work out any bugs or whatever for the newer version. It could be something like that. I don't know. I haven't looked into that.
I mean, there's some distros like Debian had the old version of Cinnamon for years. So like, I think that getting Cinnamon updated is kind of a pain just in itself.
Well, when Cinnamon updates, I think they end up changing like GTK libraries, and if your distro doesn't bump those, you're stuck. And that's one reason. If you look, it's less obvious in Stretch because it's kind of stabilized here in a little bit. But if you went back to Debbie and Jesse, you saw things like old versions of Mate and old versions of I was going to say XFCE. Actually, Jesse, you did have it was XFCE. It was the earlier, it was 4.10. You saw that stuff hang back because the GTK kind of libraries didn't bump. So if you needed GTK 20, for instance, well, you're out of luck. Sorry, guys, we're not moving it on Debian. We're not changing the entire repo for your thing. So you just wait till the next one, and then they roll along when Stretch comes along or whatever the next release is.
Yeah, I guess ultimately somebody has to package it up and get it set. So they're probably going to hit the things that they know everybody is going to be using, like KDE Plasma and and then get to the other DEs later.
I resent that. No, everybody doesn't use Plasma and GNOME.
But I'm just saying you do the installer. Those two are the ones that are top of their installer, right? So those are going to be, we'll call it the flagship, I guess. If
like the last tip that I go to, like that's my last resort.
That may be, yeah.
Well, you're a tiling window manager guy, so what do you expect?
Not. I mean, I'll do XFCE, but not GNOME.
But see, with XFCE is still GTK. I mean,
Well,
if you're not
bleeding
GNOME,
edge, it just makes you bleed.
I have a problem with GNOME, though. I mean, I read last week or the week before that they're taking away the transparency of the panel. Really?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I mean,
Wait,
it's not a big deal.
It's really not designed for multi-monitor.
Yeah,
yeah,
really
but let me just talk about the transparency on the panel. This is one thing that, to me, is a design choice that makes a distribution look modern and beautiful. Okay, and the reason that they're taking it away, they said, was because of the font color. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Elementary OS automatically changes the font color depending on your wallpaper.
Yes,
they do.
So why can't they just use Elementary's patches?
No, but they're a team of 4 at Elementary, and the GNOME desktop team couldn't come up with a similar solution to the problem. Let's just remove it. I mean,
GNOME has this situation where they did come up with the idea of sampling the existing wallpaper to be able to make it to use the correct gradients or to correct transparency background or change the font color or however you want to do it. But that would require them to do it, and they chose not to.
And to be fair, GNOME is consistent on this. They have removed a feature from every release since like the dawn. So this is not unusual, right?
They're regressing.
No, you're right. It isn't unusual, but it is very frustrating. It's almost like, I mean, it's not almost like they seem to be going backwards. Like every step they take forward to try to do maybe make GNOME faster or any upgrade, they take another step backwards to say we're going to take this functionality away. I just don't understand.
It simpler and easier. It's just one less thing you have to change later. That's all.
I found I learned.
I learned to get to GNOME 5.1. Then they'll just have the blinking cursor in the top left-hand corner.
That's it. That's all you see is the blinking
they're
cursor.
scaling it back to the point where they can actually get an entire rewrite done from the base up in one cycle, rather than trying to rebuild a mammoth.
That would actually make a lot of sense, to be honest.
Well, my other question is the extension for transparency going to work? Because there's one or two that actually work well, which I use but is that extension going to work, or is that whole functionality gone?
They're probably going to make it gone completely. Like I lurk on the design.
What we need is Ubuntu to step up to the plate and just
use Plasma,
ditch GNOME and go. No, really, they should ditch GNOME and either make Ubuntu Mate or Ubuntu Budgie the mainline edition, and just give the GNOME guys the finger basically, and maybe that would straighten some things up.
Plasma's the answer. Budgie's not there yet.
Unity.
Unity.
You can try that. You can download a theme that'll turn Plasma into Unity. It's one click and you got Unity.
Plasma with Latte Doc. Just customize. it.
Totally agree.
I don't hate that idea. Yeah.
And you know what?
But Latte Doc makes a great panel replacement too.
On my Arch install Plasma, I cannot get Latte Doc to work any longer.
It's very distro specific, because I've had issues with Latte Doc too on certain ones, and other times it worked like a charm.
But on OpenSUSE, I removed the panel and just changed it with an instance of 2 Latte Docs to make it look like Unity, with the panel at the top and the bigger panel on the left. So
that's what I do.
But going back to the GNOME thing about the transparency, so I lurk on their design, the IRC channel for the GNOME Dash design, and I find, like, according to their release, they were like saying they did a call and then no one stepped up, so therefore we're taking it, removing that feature because no one wanted to work on it. So supposedly they did a call. But my thing is, from what I observed from the IRC, is that unless you're like part of a small, very, very small group of designers, it's like that's whatever they say goes. So I want to give them benefit of doubt that they're like very democratic and all about putting it out there and access. But when it comes to decision making, it's very few people who are going back and forth on decisions, and it's like, I'm not sure how that works, how that can really work. Like, they say they're making a call, but no one. Where are you making the calls from?
Yeah, who is making the call to? I mean, who wrote the code initially that added the transparency? Why don't you talk to those people instead of just putting it out there to anybody? Hey, can you fix our problem?
That developer doesn't want to do it anymore, and he doesn't want to maintain it anymore. So the call was to anyone else. But the problem with all of these projects, like all the big projects, have the same problem where they think that if they just put it out on their own small subset of people who are paying attention, that automatically means everybody's going to see it because they're so important. Or
let me put it out on a mailing list.
Yeah.
What? You're not on the GNOME mailing list?
That's what I'm saying. Like, come on.
It's like, it's not 1995. Why are we using mailing lists still?
Does anyone in Ubuntu actually do something with that and change it from the GNOME? Would they continue to use transparency in Ubuntu GNOME?
It depends if they decide if it's worth keeping or not.
Right.
They might hold it back and keep the old version for a little while, at least for the next version.
Kind of like they did that with Nautilus forever. They used
which is a totally reasonable decision because they wanted to have desktop icons.
Yeah, right. I would agree with them. Yeah,
like a normal.
They could patch it if they wanted to revert the change, possibly.
Yeah, but then they have to maintain it, so it's like
Right,
depends on if they want to keep it or not.
You'd have to do it every time. Yeah, it would be that would be a pain.
But it does seems like if they were trying to take the same approach that the elementary guys are taking. Do you think? Because they seem to be trying to tighten up the whole ecosystem and make everything more consistent so that they can really deliver on.
No, they don't. Gnome doesn't understand what consistency is.
No, they're completely different.
I would love
Elementary-
that to be the issue. I would love to agree to that they're trying to be like elementary in that area, but to me, it doesn't seem like they are.
Well, just a case in point is that they had the issue with the desktop icons thing, and they said, no one stepped up again. I guess we have to remove it. And then, like, literally within 6 months, this guy's like working on an extension to bring it back. It really comes down to these a very small circle of people making these decisions, and they're claiming they're making these calls, and it's not scalable.
They do make the calls. It's just to themselves.
Yes, I'm saying that it's like.
So the guy that maintains the actual menu launcher, full screen launcher, he just decides tomorrow he doesn't want to maintain it. What are they going to do? Remove it?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
probably based on their track record. Probably.
I know this is open source, and I know this is you work on what you want to, but at some point, don't you have to?
Rocco, you don't need that launcher anyway. Just execute it from the terminal.
Right? I know. But I mean,
How
what
do
I'm
you
saying
get
is
to the
that
terminal though?
Well, why don't we just do away with the desktop entirely at that point? Come on.
Right? I mean, there you
Okay.
go.
We'll use the HUD. Oh wait, we can't.
All right, stop trying to promote DistroTube's channel, okay? And just
I
use
just
everything
think
with-
at some point, you may have to work on things maybe you don't want to work on. Maybe I don't know. It's
You know what you guys sound like you're describing, though? I said it earlier. I don't know if you heard it. It sounds like DOS. That's exactly the direction they're heading. You're going to have a black screen with a blinking yellow or green cursor or whatever it was, and you're going to just type in it, and that's it.
You make that sound as though it's a bad thing.
No, it's not. But I mean, the thing is in today's world, trying to get users onto Linux, it could be for that purpose.
It's a meme.
GDOS. GDOS.
GDOS.
GDOS.
Yeah,
GDOS.
GNU DOS.
Now, see,
It's
Anselm.
the GNU DOS.
Anselm in the chat says he's man after my own heart. He said nothing's wrong with Unity. Runs great in Umix, which is what I am running currently at this moment.
I miss Unity a lot.
My favorite desktop environment of all time.
Well, someone will always work it off, won't they? Something like that.
No.
Hi guys.
Hi Joel.
Hi.
Hello.
I asked Gnome too in the chat IRC several times. Didn't really get a great answer. Was what's the deal with this, like the single thread processor or what was that? What's the strategic benefit of that? And I didn't really get too much of it. Someone said that from a programming standpoint, it simplifies some of the stuff that they do for processes and managing the environment, but no one really
it's way
answered. Yeah, so
so much easier, but so much more problematic.
yeah,
Of
so
course.
is that really
One
the
crash, all
best thing?
crash.
The reason
It's a
is
basic-
legitimately it's easier programming. Yeah.
It's basically an OS, like OS 101 university type lesson you learn. It's like it's the first thing you learn about operating systems in college. It's like there's the monolith, and then there's what's the other one? I'm trying to remember.
No, you're talking about microkernels.
Not microkernels. It's basically just
Micro development is having multiple separate subsets, but also it's not about monolithic stuff anyway, because you can have a monolithic thing that still uses multiple processes.
Are you talking about RISC?
No, definitely not that. No, I was just.
Well, I mean, you said monolithic versus RISC. That was I was thinking versus RISC.
But this idea that it's on a one thread or one processor or one core, and there's a benefit for that. No one really was able to communicate the strategic advantage, other than from a programmer's perspective, it's easier to maintain the right code.
Pretty much, that's what it is. Yeah,
That's where they're coming from. Yeah, I mean that's where the
From
devs
user
are.
point, there is no advantage because software runs slower, especially such software as the will run way slower because basically everything has to run on that one thread, so everything has to compete for that one resource.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
why
so,
you have like GPU bound, not anymore CPU bound. The whole desktop is GPU bound, so it does many small tasks that are really easy to do instead of a small number of hard tasks.
and that's why JB was like, I think Chris on JB was saying that while it is a great improvement, you can definitely feel the speed improvements they did in the latest release. It's still like not there yet. Like it's not even close to the enhancements that Plasma did. But my secondary question is like, okay, so is that specific to GNOME, or can GTK be something that's multi-process, multi-threaded in that sense, or is it?
It's not. GTK doesn't necessarily depend on that structure. You can have multi-processes for GTK, but you don't.
Yeah.
You like, for example, Firefox is GTK and it's got multi-processes. It depends on, and also technically, Chrome is multi-process, but they have a fork of GTK with their own. I forgot what they called it, but they have their own toolkit they forked for GTK. Anyway, so the biggest thing is the shell has the single process, but you can have everything else on a different process, and it's not as bad. The problem is when the shell crashes, that's where the problem comes. So if you have well, it's actually not really that big of a deal now, because when they first created it, it was basically because it was easier and they could get started faster and they can get more work done faster. So they did it that way. And with X, you're not really worried about that, because if your shell crashes on X can compensate and put it to another thread so you can restart it. Wayland can't do that. So if you crash a GNOME on Wayland, the whole system is just done. You have to reboot. So that's the big ridiculousness of them choosing a single process thread, because they also are the ones who are pushing Wayland the most. But at the same time, if you ever crash on Wayland, it's just done.
Yeah, but that's even not that much different because that would have to provide that another thread is redundant to the thread you already use.
No, you can have handoffs like Plasma does.
Yeah, but it's always just a redundancy problem. Basically, if you have a multi-threaded workload, it's that much faster in reality. I've done some multi-threaded work programming, and it's quite good to have
single process is not good. I don't think
no one's debating like my question is like, what's the I'm waiting for the aha moment, because from a GNOME design perspective, I've researched GNOME design and UI, looked through the old blogs and old interviews, and I was able to extrapolate some gems of like user design and say, oh wow, that's pretty interesting, that's why they do that. I'm looking at this part and I'm like, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And it's sad because GTK and their design thing is like, I like GTK, I like what GNOME does from a design perspective, but man, is it crippling when it comes to performance. I just can't.
Maybe it's connected to JavaScript that it uses as a backend.
No, they chose to do the single process thing. Is they didn't have to do it. They just chose to do it.
Okay.
There's no reason, as far as technically speaking, that they had to do it, because browsers are multi-process and browsers are specifically JavaScript controlled and all that other stuff.
Yeah, but
they had no need to do it. They just wanted to.
Yeah,
it could be that because they use as an overall they use JavaScript. It could be some issues with multi-threading.
No, because you can do multi-threaded JavaScript inside of regular browsers. All browsers that are even worth using are multi-threaded.
Haven't been using the specific JavaScript code, but each site actually is a new JavaScript process and not like one process. That's one thing I know about JavaScript, and that's it.
I seem to recall a certain Linux podcast talking about Mint changing Cinnamon to a multi-threaded DE.
It wasn't to begin with.
Who would talk about that?
Well, it's a fork of GNOME, so it automatically is a single process. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So they also aren't doing it. They are currently contemplating whether they're going to do it or not.
Right.
They should.
Well, it's not about whether they should or not. It's whether they can or not.
Yeah, I think I read something about that myself, but that wasn't from developers. I think that was more of a comment because somebody was posing a solution to how heavy Cinnamon Desktop is, and multi-threading it might help it in that respect, but it's not going to help it.
Well, that goes to my question though. Like, if they're using the GTK stack, they don't have. Couldn't it technically be multi-threaded if they're not using a GNOME shell?
They're literally a fork of GNOME shell. Cinnamon is literally a fork. And the reason it inherited the single thread because they forked the single thread process. So they have to, and then the entire time they've been building Cinnamon, they've been building with that single thread. They like just inheriting that system. So they'd have to take different pieces and move them all to different processes depending on what they wanted to move. And there are developers who've said that they are looking into doing it. Clem said that there's one of the developers of the Mint team is looking into doing it. They're just still trying to figure out whether it is theoretically possible to completely rebuild the infrastructure without losing what makes Cinnamon.
Who uses GTK that's actually multi-threaded?
What do you mean as far as like
their desktop environment?
I think Mate. Yeah. And Budgie is too, I think so too, yeah. I haven't actually looked at Budgie, but it would make sense because
But Mate was a fork of GNOME too originally.
Yeah,
but it was, and it was multi-threaded in GTK too.
And how about Elementary?
They're not a fork of. I don't know if they are or not, as far as like whether they're multi-threaded or not. But they are not a fork of GNOME, so they don't inherit that problem. So they might not be.
Because I'm surprised by the performance I get from Elementary versus something else, and I'm just not sure how much of that is tweaking versus, like you said, inheriting that from the shell.
Well, they didn't fork GNOME, so they didn't inherit anything. They use GNOME stack in some cases, but it's not a direct copy like Cinnamon is.
Okay.
Because Cinnamon takes the direct branch code of 3.6, I think. They took 3.6 of GNOME and then turned it into Cinnamon.
Wow.
And Pantheon is just their own creation using the GNOME stack.
I guess it's kind of similar with Budgie. Budgie's not really a fork of GNOME either. A lot of people assume it is, but it's not.
Yeah, there's the same kind of stack structure. Right. And also the same thing happened with Unity. It was his own. It was a stack structure built on GTK.
Yeah, the trick with Budgie is it was originally the early versions were running a GNOME shell, but I think it's separate now.
Have there been any reports of forking? I know that the mobile version of Ubuntu is using Unity in a different way, but are there any news about forking Unity to a new desktop environment at all?
There's a fledgling small group of people who are trying to like work on Unity 8. That's
no. Yeah. So there's Unity 8.
Well, it's one guy.
There's no. Unity 8 is it has a big backing. Unity 7 was forked by a small group, and they're supposed to be making the Ubuntu Unity remix or something. And there's still work on that. I'm not sure like what the updates for that is. Unity 8 is actually being made by the UbiPorts team, so it's going to be continuing fine.
Yeah, technically, Mike, though, like there's very few people who are like Marius is supposedly working on Unity 8, but from what I read, it's barely getting touched.
Right, but it's also they also are building a backing and they're building their own foundation and stuff. So they are still in the early stages of building their structure. So I'm just saying that the people who are saying that it's like Unity 8 is going to die or it's going to fall off, they've already adopted it because they need it for their new future versions of Ubuntu Touch.
Yeah,
the really interesting thing about Unity 8 is if you go and actually look at the code, so Unity, of course, is GTK based. But when you go and look at Unity 8, at least for the mobile version,
Qt.
That's Qt. Yeah, it's Qt based.
It was always meant to be.
Yep.
Unity 8 was always
for mobile.
Right.
No. For period. Unity 8 was Qt, mobile, desktop, doesn't matter. It was Qt.
Yeah.
Right. It's because of that, even though it is going to be vastly different, just outright. And you can see that when you actually go and use it.
Convergent.
It doesn't have to be.
But Unity 8...
If I'm not mistaken, isn't the code that is used to run Unity 8 on mobile the exact same code, more or less, that they used to run Unity 8 on desktop?
Well, I mean, no one ever used Unity 8 on desktop, so it doesn't matter.
That's
there
the kick.
was
Well, that's the kicker. Is that that talking about that small group? That small group is looking to make it that it is a universal type thing that you can't.
No, it was
run
meant to be
on.
universal. They just never released it. Unity 8 was never actually released by Canonical ever. It was
well, there
all
were betas.
experimental stuff.
There were betas.
I'm
Like
talking about UB ports, guys.
But they never released it. It was the whole point is that it was all experimental stuff, and that's why.
Right.
But it's the same. It was meant to be the same code, yes. But it was also very different because Ubuntu Touch it technically did use Qt, but it used a different version of Qt and a different structure of Qt because it had like the different packaging system and all that stuff. So there was a significant difference, but they were going to combine the two. They planned to combine the two at some point. So like when they announced the ending of it, there was some talk in Canonical that Unity 8 was going to be coming in 1804.
Man, imagine if they pulled that off. Oh my god.
Transmission begins from Moneypenny.
It would have been kind of dangerous for them to do that, but it'd have been nice.
It would be cool if it was like not default.
Unity 7. I mean, Unity back in the day was dangerous when they released it in 1104, but it turned out all right.
Well, Mark,
it wasn't dangerous. It was a requirement. Like they didn't have a choice. Like that's why every time we have a conversation about Unity and anyone talks about like not you saying you're doing this, dude. I'm telling like there's multiple times where I've had people were like, why didn't they choose Mate? Well, Mate didn't exist.
Right.
Why didn't you use Cinnamon? Because Cinnamon didn't exist.
Right. Like, you had GNOME Shell or you had Unity, and the early version of GNOME 3 was just garbage. So.
Absolute massive garbage. Like you could argue whether GNOME is good or now or not, but no, like the first 7 versions of GNOME were just utter trash, like not usable. No one could use it. And in fact, Linus
it shipped in Fedora though, Michael. Fedora shipped it.
Oh, of course they did.
They ship everything now.
if they should ship it, if they make it, they better eat their own dog food. But it was not good. So they had a choice between Plasma, which was was going through the process of getting rid of 4 and going into 5. So they really didn't have a choice there. And GNOME had already abandoned 2 and going into 3. And they weren't like, here's a transition period. It was just like, we're going to kill 2 for no reason and just make something that's not usable. So the only option they had was to make their own.
And in line, Mark was already looking at the strategy ahead of time with convergence, knowing that True North was going to be Ubuntu on mobile. All that stuff was already in the works.
Yeah.
So once you understand that their whole direction was Ubuntu Touch, that's what for me made it very forgiving that Unity came out. It wasn't the best when it first came out, but I don't care what anyone says. Show me another desktop environment that got that stable that fast.
It only took them 1 year to get a totally stable system.
Yeah. 1204 from 1104 to 1204 was night and day.
Yep. I had 1204 I kept 1204 for about a year and a half.
Too.
Or something.
Me too.
It was so good. And it's the most annoying thing about the Unity 1204 is they had a GTK and a Qt version, and the Qt version was fantastic. If they had just kept the Qt version,
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
was that the 2D version?
It was.
Yeah, it was 2D. But the only difference was like having the bevel on the icons. You take that and it's
flat or something.
The exact same experience. The HUD worked in both of them. It was totally good. They could have just kept the Qt version, and they would have been.
So why didn't they?
Why did they pick GNOME this time? Because we have people who work on GTK.
Right.
Even though the exact same time is the entire time you've said this, like the entire time that Canonical has said that they have, that's why they chose GNOME. Well, they also had people who worked on Qt the entire time too. So it's like, what's your point?
It hurts, man. Is it the licensing thing that made it kind of weird for them?
Nope. I mean, the Canonical people knew that the licensing thing was not true. So like there was a lot of people who expressed that the licensing was a problem with Qt and Plasma, but Canonical knew that was not an issue because they were using Qt at one point. And the idea is saying that that there is proprietary license. One, it's not, and it hasn't been since 1999.
Yeah, that was 15 years ago. It was proprietary. It's
no longer. 20 was when it became the KDE Qt. Free Qt Foundation was created in 1999, and since then, they had outright usage of Qt with no problems. Then by the time in like 2011 is when there was absolutely no concern whatsoever. In 2014 is when the Qt company officially announced that they are 100% open source and free software and LibreSoftware, all that stuff. So there was like licensing wise, there hasn't been a problem for a minimum since 2011. And if you go back to the actual Qt foundation they made, it's 1999.
And then last devil's advocate thing, is it because when you look at the backing, the ecosystem, the companies backing and all that stuff, is GNOME king on top? And is that, I think that's probably the only reason why the Red Hat, all that stuff, all the money behind that is it's the most.
As long as Red Hat and Canonical are in favor of on their flagship editions of it's got to be the king.
I don't think that Canonical, like having Canonical and Red Hat, like you're saying, Derek, is a valid point. Once you have both of them, I mean, it automatically
it's game over, right? It's like System D the same way. System D. I mean, that's
right. And that's a good point. But prior to them choosing GNOME, there was just Red Hat that backed it. And Canonical, if Canonical backed anything, it automatically makes it a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have backed some weird random window manager, and it would have become a competitor in comparison to Red Hat's GNOME stuff. So they could have picked Plasma, and they could have ran with it, and it wouldn't make a difference. I don't think there is a reason.
I would have loved to seen Canonical pick Plasma just to see how much
they could polish it.
They could polish it.
But I mean, Unity used all the GNOME apps anyway. If they switched to Plasma and all the KDE,
they were going to switch to Qt anyway because of Unity 8. So that argument also doesn't matter.
Yeah, like but they were going to. They never did.
But Mike,
it doesn't matter.
The point
they were going to anyway.
Is, Mike, the point is, once you drop convergence, you lose that. You lose the main.
They didn't have to drop convergence with Plasma. That's the point.
But the driving force of why they were going to Qt, from what I read, was they wanted to go with the mobile first experience, convergence, docking, all that stuff. So that was a priority. Once that is dropped, it frees them up to choose other stacks.
Right, but when they chose to do the canceling of Unity and chose to do that, Plasma Mobile already existed. Plasma was perfectly customizable and polishable to be a Unity experience. They could have even kept the HUD and everything, which they completely abandoned most of these features that they had that Unity was great about was using GNOME. They could have kept everything with Plasma, even the UI, and it could have had Plasma Mobile, and they could have helped work on Plasma Mobile to polish that and make that work. So they could have still had the same benefit of the convergence.
Prophetic, I think he would lose this battle because I think Michael is currently repping his video that he did with regards to why Ubuntu should have gone with Plasma instead of GNOME. Just put my hand on your back.
Well, I have to say that Michael, I think, is at least for once right.
Yeah, and he has a video series on this, so he does the research. He does have the research.
Well, I think almost everybody would agree that Ubuntu should have picked anything else but GNOME.
Yeah. But GNOME, GNOME is getting a pointed release update that apparently is having a lot of news right now, isn't it?
No, I covered the latest version that's coming out. There's nothing that big a deal.
Not even with performance.
Yeah, but it's
barely
because
performance
when you take a Beetle and you put a turbo engine in it doesn't make it a good car.
Or you put a V8 in a beach buggy.
I don't know. A V8
I'd take either of those.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
So.
Actually, that was a Grand Tour episode. Just FYI.
What you're trying to say is you want to tow a yacht with a Yugo, and there you go.
So when I say Beetle, I'm talking about the new modern Beetle, not the old
rinky-dink ones.
Beetle that you could turn into crazy monsters. I'm talking about stupid, ridiculous little modern.
The one with the bud vase.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on from the Plasma discussion. We have to pick a distro.
I'm with Michael on that. I can't argue anything with anything that he's saying is wrong. It's all right. So
you gotta give him one thing. He does his research.
Nate. I mean, really.
Again,
no one's debating.
channel.
We're just looking at like some of the landscape of what made sense for them at the time.
And also the devil advocate conversation is interesting too, because I mean, I know you said you weren't like advocating for it anyway, but just trying to find out why.
Yeah,
and also like throwing stuff back and forth, like what is the reason? The only way we get to do that is to just suggest possible reasons, and unfortunately, the only actual reason I can come up with is because we're comfortable with it, and that's it.
Yeah,
comfortable with it.
Which would be really interesting to see them do. It would be interesting to see them fork XFCE, convert it to using Qt, and then just keep that updated.
Dude, it's taking 3 years to get to GTK 3. You just take your crazy ideas and get them out of here. We are 85% GTK 2.22. Don't even get me started on GTK 4.
Why would they do that when Budgie exists? I mean, there's
converted to Qt 4. Why? It works the way it is, which is probably Ubuntu's argument for using GNOME. It works the way it is. We used it back when we started this thing. We're going to use it now that we're not doing our own thing, because you know what? Convergence didn't work because no one's going to make a device and everybody wants to carry a big old monitor around, plug your phone into it. It's not going to work. I know you guys want to love these Samsung devices. Plug your phone in and you have a computer, but you know what? I want a purpose-built machine.
Cough, cough, Dex, cough, cough.
I don't know what you just said, but okay.
Dex is Samsung's convergence idea implemented in the market.
I want convergence with the Librem 5.
And I don't want to take a $600 phone that lasts 3 years, which is expensive enough, and make that anything approaching a main computer. No way. It's not even the travel computer, because you know why? Because the big monitor that I plug this thing into don't travel.
So
convergence is a horrible. It doesn't work. So you want to not in the way you think.
Mike is the plasma guy. I'm the convergence guy. So when it comes to convergence, no one has ever, if they were idiots to perpetuate this idea that this phone is going to replace a hardcore, like, purpose-driven device.
And yet, a very large Linux company developed a desktop system that was going to work on both this phone and a laptop/desktop. And you know what? They dropped it because they figured out it was a stupid idea and they weren't going to do it.
Honestly, things
more so than IPO.
If you spend a couple $1 million building this thing and no one actually buys it, you've just lost a couple $1 million.
If you put aside software for a minute, the new iPad Pros are just about on par hardware wise with current laptops. They are just as good. It's the software that Apple puts on top of them that's crippling them.
Yes, and the next step to that is going to be our phones are going to be that strong. And when you have to get ready for the marketplace and the shift there, you have to be ahead of the curve. This problem is when you're too ahead of the curve, you pay the price and you don't get the user base.
Everything. What about architecture?
6-inch screen all day long.
ARM is nowhere near.
I don't agree. I know somebody will buy them. Not enough people will buy them.
I think casual.
Hold on.
Folks.
Too many people talking at once.
They won't. Casual folks will not. Casual folks will buy a phone and they will buy a Chromebook. Or they will buy a phone and the Windows laptop from Walmart. Because you know what? The phone and the Windows laptop from Walmart cost less than the Convergence device by several $100s. It's not, the argument for convergence isn't there because a laptop and a phone is more portable than a laptop and a dock and a monitor.
So people said that the same thing about tablets and where we are with tablets. Did laptops did laptops disappear when tablets came out?
No.
No, you know why?
So what I'm saying, the point I'm making is that
everybody that owns an iPad owns a laptop.
You have to own both, right?
Yeah, but that's the point, is that eventually more and more people are using their laptops just a little bit less, and you see the iPads getting stronger and stronger.
No, you're missing my point. That is not convergence.
No, but my point is that
We're talking convergence. I've got 17,000 devices in the house. I'm all about purpose-built machines. I've got a Kindle. I've got a cheap-ass laptop right here. I've got all sorts of stuff. But none of them converge.
The thing is that but look at what Apple's doing with their UI. Their UI in the Mac OS is looking like iOS more and more. So yes, it does take a little imagination to think ahead.
Mac OS looks like iOS.
It's starting to look like a little bit more.
OS hasn't changed its look for 10 years.
Who here knows what I'm talking
actually
about?
have changed it a lot.
I do.
Yeah, I showed. Yeah.
Okay. So
fine.
Dolphin. I know
Mojave is like, or Mojave or whatever the latest one is, like the one where they're changing it. It's got flat design. It's they're changing a bunch. They're going.
So Dolphin, we're both right. We're both right.
I like the way you think. I like both of us being right.
Yeah,
I'm a
I think it's just a matter. I think it's a matter of timing.
What did I do?
The timing
phones.
I think I think Ubuntu their implementation of a convergence that they were trying to sell was too soon, too fast, and Mark Shuttleworth fumbled on shipping a device that was not there, was not ready, and it left a really bad taste in everybody's mouths about.
We will get convergence when we have good foldable
devices.
No, the company's licensed Ubuntu touch on it. He didn't technically.
People have talked about convergence for 30 years, and we're still talking about it.
Honestly, I think Dave is right here. I think that
people were talking about artificial intelligence since the 70s, and it takes time to get where we need to get to.
Oh God, if it's been 50 years, our kids will be talking about it. You know,
that's fine. If it takes 100 years to get a good product that actually works, then fine. Look at how long it took us to get supersonic jets. It took us 60 years.
I don't have that kind of time.
Okay.
The Concorde cracked and they quit flying them.
So we still have good products now.
I love it. I'm getting things riled up. I was quiet for an hour and a half, and I had to say something.
But we gotta keep up with the Europe version of Biddle.
But here's the question.
Okay, guys. So we need to choose a distro for next week.
Yeah.
Well, hold on.
Let's table this right now.
We were talking about the AI from the 70s, right?
I'm going to start muting people.
So I'm just curious.
I really am. I'm going to start muting everybody.
Think about it. Just think about it for a second. The AI took a very long time, but the Terminator 3 was inferior to 1000. Now the Terminator 2. So, like, what happened there?
You know what?
Liquid metal's better than this weird extra weapons thing. I mean,
okay, we need to pick a distro.
How dare you? How dare you?
Wow.
I would like to recommend the distro to be Ubuntu 16.04 via Samsung's DexPad.
Oh, what if I don't have a Samsung phone that works with
that? Only costs you $1,000.
VM.
Wait, the next one.
I would suggest
the pads.
I would suggest we try out Makulu Linux.
No. Specifically, Makulu Core. Because there's 3 different versions of Makulu.
Okay, what different versions are there?
There's the regular version that is XFCE based. They also have some other modified version that's like a base level. And then they have the core version. The core version is the weirdest one. This is the one that a dark one would love. So it is a modified XFCE, but it's heavily mouse gesture based. It has multiple hot corners with different menus and like 2 different menus, 2 different docks that do all kinds of different sorts of stuff. And they also have the GNOME Pi menu that is a circular menu. When you click it, it changes different like levels and it moves around. It's interesting.
That was developed so that people could use their iPads to run the system on it in the future.
Right.
Could be.
Thanks for bringing that back around, Scott.
Pretty cool.
So, any other suggestions besides Makulu Linux?
Have you ever done Bodhi?
Enjoy the silence.
I don't think we did Bodhi.
That's my old friend.
Bodhi's good.
I know we've talked about it a couple times.
I think I saw it on that list.
I don't think we did it.
Well, Makulu just came out with a release, so I would think that we would want to try that and maybe give them some feedback. What do you think?
Well, you should say in that case you should do just open into Makulu because Makulu Core is definitely an interesting thing. Anybody who's a keyboard driven person is not going to like that one.
Does it use Vim bindings?
No, but it does use
It's like 90% the mouse.
The panel that has the web apps on it. What is it? AWN or
something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is.
I really like this on their standout features list. Easter egg: leave your PC idle for about 10 minutes and find out. ...
Sounds like fun.
Just a quick heads up for you. If you don't know Jacques Raymer, the distributor, he does not take criticism well.
Well,
if you don't like it and you tell him, he says, "Well, don't bloody use it then." Excuse my French.
Well, then maybe we need to pick something different.
Yeah, he
He
does.
wouldn't be the first distro maintainer that's like that. There's a few like that. I've met.
I would say that we use it and give the feedback anyway. I mean, I'm not. It's nothing against him. I just think that if we're going to try it, let's try it.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
He at least needs to hear it. He can take our advice one way or the other.
Yeah,
if he wants to act.
A lot of people will say that, and then they'll actually use the feedback.
Yeah, sometimes when you first hear feedback on your distro, you may get up in arms about it, and then you'll come back later and be like, you know what, they were kind of right. So,
sounds like you know that from firsthand experience, Tom.
Yes, actually, I do. I could go into a long rant.
So that's what happened to Allie. Poor guy. We haven't seen him.
No, he's having other issues at the moment. So I talked to him the other day.
I was just being a little funny. But
I've been working with Makulu Linux since Makulu 7, and I know Jacques just does not listen. He has his own ideas, and away he goes.
Well, then we'll let him know if his ideas are good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And he can be a one-man developer then.
Send him a link as well, Rocco.
Yeah.
Send him a link to the show.
Yeah.
It's Core Build 31. Is that the one we're looking at?
It's Core something, yeah.
It's Core, yeah.
Is that what you guys want to go with?
I mean, I would suggest pick any Makulu, but the Core one is going to be the most unique.
Yeah, let's try the
It's
Core.
the one that's had the most work done on it recently. Flash is fairly old, and Lindows hasn't been worked on in about a year, I don't think.
Yes, he did say Lindows.
Yeah, the Core one was just recent, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're all fairly recent. The oldest one is 6 months ago, because he's been releasing periodically different branches. So there is some updates every once in a while for all of them, but he's been doing it where released one, then work on the next one, release that one, then work on the next one, and the Core is the latest one.
Right. Yeah, I think Zeb, you said it right a little while ago. He works on stuff, but he never seems to finish anything off. So, and that's his big problem. He should just work on one and finish it and complete it. That's probably why he doesn't take criticism very well, because he doesn't finish anything properly, I don't think.
Yeah, but I think his Lindows is now definitely finished. He says he won't be working much on that anymore.
Right.
Well, should we look at that one then instead?
Say again?
Should we look at that one again then instead? See, is this the most finished?
No, because you might as well look at Zorin OS and Ferran OS, and it's all the same sort of, here's an XFCE desktop, and I'll give you 34 million Windows type window manager things. That's all it is. There's nothing special about Lindows.
All right, so Makulu Linux Core will be the distro challenge.
Cool.
So it is past time. Everybody gets the last word. Go.
Thank you for having me on. I apologize for not giving better feedback on the distro this week. It just was one that I was having a little bit of struggle with. I probably should have spent a little more time on it, but it did look like a nice distro. There was no harm intended for it. I think it's like somebody had said, it's, I think it was maybe Dave or somebody said, your muscle memory. It's kind of the same thing as what you're used to. I'm so used to Ubuntu based that, and we've done some other ones that were Arch based too, but this one I just, for whatever reason, I had a couple struggles. But anyway, I thought it was something that still deserves a good look at. So, and thank you.
Michael, last word.
Thanks for the stream, and I don't really have anything else to follow up with. No clever comments tonight.
All right, keep the investigation going, please. All right.
It's all fake news. I'm just going to say it's fake news.
Peter, last word.
I want to thank everyone who was in the Telegram chat today, who supported and helped me. I almost lost it today when I was cloning my wife's Windows C drive SSD with Clonezilla, and then realized I had put the folder into lost and found. Therefore, there was no folder, and I almost lost it. And then we had the UK chat, which really helped me calm down. So thank you all.
Awesome. Dan, last word.
Thanks, Rocco, as always, and I guess extra thanks for the earlier stream too. Even though I wasn't on it, it was fun to watch and listen and have some feedback from some other folks that don't normally participate. So that was great too. So that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Awesome. Totally agree. The Europe edition went well, and there was a lot of feedback. So, Colin, last word.
Thanks for the stream, Rocco. Yeah, I've got to get around to watching that Europe one. I've been a bit busy this weekend, so hopefully I get a bit of time to watch that. So, I'm looking forward to trying Markulu Linux Core. I do like the creativeness of Jacques Rama. He comes up with some creative stuff, very good. But just sometimes I can't find it in myself to run them full time. So I don't know what it is about it, but we'll see what the core's all about. I'm looking forward to that.
All right, Thomas, last word.
All right. Well, thank you guys for having me on again this week. It's been fun. I would also, I know he's not in any of the chats or in here. I would also like to thank Chicken. He has decided to become a contributor for Draugr OS, and I greatly appreciate the help.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yes. So yeah, thanks.
So you got him working so hard he can't join us.
No, actually, all I've asked him to do is help me update my documentation.
Like you said, I'm working so hard he can't join us.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, actually, Scott, next to no work.
All right, the man with the awesome background, Scott.
Yeah.
It's all for you, Rocco. All for you. Great show as always, and we should see the ratings go up quite a bit thanks to that lively discussion toward the end there.
Yeah.
I know the T1000 is important.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll have to discuss the T1000 offline.
Always a good show, Rocco. I've got Makulu already installed, so I'm a little bit ahead of the game for the review. Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
All right, Nate, last word.
Again, thank you very much for having me. I just had a good time. I do feel like people kind of tiptoed around on the OpenSUSE because I was in here. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But
we were right.
No, we don't tiptoe around here, do we?
I don't think so.
Does he look like Kermit, or is it just me?
Just ask Jacques.
Sorry, Nate looks like Kermit. It just kind of struck me. That's
he has like a green tint.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
the lighting. I think.
My lights are green.
It's the OpenSUSE light.
Yeah. It's not easy. I mean, it is easy being green, right? So,
Team Green.
Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks to everyone for all the conversation. I really enjoy it. I always learn something every day, and it's actually pretty fantastic. So thank you everybody for all that you do.
Dave, last word.
Thank you, Rocco. Thank you, Zeb, and tuxdigital.com/cubicle Nate for the win.
There you go. Made it to the big time. Frank, last word.
I just appreciate you having me on, and it was very enjoyable.
Awesome. Tyler?
Thanks for having me on the show again. I loved playing with revisiting OpenSUSE in the last week, and it'll be fun playing with Makulu Core.
All right. Big Pod, last word.
Thanks for having me on twice today. And I actually really, really liked that you had one for Europe edition. Basically, it was a much more sensible time for me.
And then you did it again.
Yeah, unlike the current time.
It was at 9 p.m. Saturday, unlike this, which is 3 a.m. Sunday. So,
wow. Sorry, man.
Yeah, but it's nothing for me. Just still better time. That was better time. I don't even know I would be sleeping now. So, yeah. Thanks again. See you next week, I guess.
All right. We'll be here. Ivan, last word?
Thank you guys for having me. It's been really enlightening and fun. Appreciate all you do, Rocco. And I'll keep an eye on my cooler and let you know next time how it goes.
All right. Dolphin, last word?
MX 18.1 rolls out today. Annex 17.4 rolls out later this week. If you already got them installed, no need to reinstall. These are roll-up releases. But if you're a live USB user, and we got improvements on the 64-bit UEFI side for you guys that, for whatever reason, use DD or Etcher or something not, awesome to burn your live USBs. So you read only live USB guys. We've improved our booting so it'll work better.
Are you talking about the disk destroyer, Zeb? DD. Zeb was on EB's stream the other day, and that's what he called DD, the disk destroyer.
Yeah. Image on a stick, I call them. That's the CD on a stick. Is
data deleter. That's what it is.
Turn your 8 terabyte drive into a 600 megabyte CD. So
DD earned the Disk Destroyer like a long time ago because their actual reason for the name of it is so silly and weak that they just had to give it something better. Because the name of it is Carbon Copy, and you'd be like, well, that's CC. Yeah, but CC already existed, so they just changed it to DD. That's the reason.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
That's great.
So my real last word is Prophetic's the man. Okay.
Right back at you.
Prophetic, last word.
So tuxdigital.com/convergence coming soon eventually.
That's too long.
Hashtag one day. Hashtag. Thanks again for another lively discussion. I think I echo the YouTube chat that's saying the Europe version was a lot more polite, whereas our version was more like the Wild Wild West. I like it, and I think we should keep it that way. Thanks, Rocco.
Americans, we have Wild West.
All right,
that's what happens when you have the 2,000.
Thanks for letting me take up screen space here. But it's always great. You guys, a lot of knowledge here. It's unbelievable. I have to process all this. So thanks for letting me be part of it.
Anytime, man. And you're more than welcome to just butt in because these guys won't give you a chance half the time. If you don't, so.
I'm very polite. I don't know what you're talking about.
Whatever. Michael, last word. Next.
Wow.
All right, Derek.
I only
He's
next
had 4 already.
There's only one next once every decade. So, anyways, just check out the next episode of This Week in Linux, which is coming out tomorrow morning. I've actually I recorded it early today. I already edited it. It's already uploaded, and it's going to be ready on time immediately tomorrow morning. So
fake news.
That's the first time ever, and I'm happy. And also, if you're a patron for Destination Linux, we're going to be recording another episode tomorrow.
Nice.
I'll be looking for both of those. Awesome.
All right, Derek, last word.
I have a YouTube channel. I think you can find it at tuxdigital.com/YouTube. I believe that is still good.
I believe that does work.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Rocco.
All right. JJ, last word.
All right. Thank you guys for having this discussion and also having a lively discussion. Hopefully I can plug that the Discord is also going to do the post-show discussion of whatever we want to talk about. So after this, so just if anybody wants to join the Discord is in the description. Correct, Rocco?
Or you can get to it by www.bigdaddylinks.com/discord.
Okay, that's awesome. And and the only thing I can say about SUSE is, remember SUSE Studio?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, long time ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was great, and it's sad they killed it. But
All
the
right,
reasoning for killing it.
It's sort of coming back.
All right, Chris, last word.
Well, discussion tonight kind of reminded me when Big Pot and I went at it about AI on DT's channel there one time. But other than that, I mean, I always have fun with you guys, and I learn a lot. Since I've started partaking and watching these streams, I've learned so much more than what was in my textbook as far as how to administer Linux and stuff like that. So thank you for having this resource. It's really good. And with that, if you're in the Northeast or Midwest, please stay warm. We got a few more days of this. I think the groundhog was frozen in the ground this time. We have 6 more weeks of it. Anyway, see you guys next week, and CT, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
All right, Seb, last word, brother.
Well, thanks for having me on the show again for a second time. It's been good fun, and the thing I like about Linux is that I've always got a very safe, secure home to come to. So Peppermint OS for the win if you need a bit of sanity.
You're almost as bad as Michael.
Oh.
Wow.
Says the man who's constantly pimping his own distro.
Do that this week. Do that this week.
Just in case Dreaming Wolf thinks he's got away with it, I'll take you to task on your statement that if I can't read a make file, I shouldn't install it. And we'll have a discussion about that next week.
All right. Makulu Linux, the distro for this week. If you want to check it out with us, that would be great. You can join the Telegram group at bigdaddylinks.com/Telegram and join in the fun as we pull our hair out trying out all these distros. All right.
I've already lost so much.
I am Big Daddy Linux. Thank you for watching. And remember, each and every one of you make up the Linux community. So long live Linux.
Thank you, Tyler.
Try Puppy Linux.
See ya.
Later.
Trust.com.